Imagine you are at the end of everything. Before you stand two doors. Behind one is a vast, shadowy kingdom, ruled by a grim, unseen king who holds absolute power over every soul within his domain. Behind the other is a perilous path of judgment, where your heart will be weighed on a scale by a jackal-headed god to decide your eternal fate. One is Hades, the other is Anubis. Both are lords of the dead, but they could not be more different. So, who was the more powerful, the more important? Who was the true lord of the underworld? Welcome to Teduent. Today we journey into the realms of the dead to crown its one true king. For the ancient Greeks, death meant descending into the underworld, a vast, inescapable kingdom. It was a place of finality, ruled by the eldest brother of Zeus himself. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not an end, but a dangerous transition, a journey through a realm called the Duat, which, if navigated successfully, could lead to a perfect afterlife. Two cultures, two faiths, two incredibly powerful gods governing the mystery of what comes next. But when we pit them against each other, who truly holds the title? Is it the one with absolute authority and an iron grip on his kingdom? Or is it the one who holds the very key to eternity in his hands? This isn't just about who's stronger. It's a battle of philosophy, power, and legacy. To find our answer, we'll compare their domains, their powers and symbols, their methods of judgment, and finally, their lasting legacy on history. First, let's enter Hades' domain. After paying the ferryman, Charon, souls entered a vast, multi-layered kingdom. Most were destined for the Asphodel Meadows, a gray, joyless, and eternal existence. The truly wicked were cast into the pit of Tartarus for eternal punishment. Only a select few heroes were granted access to the paradise of the Elysian fields. It was a kingdom of rigid order and finality. Anubis's realm, the Duat, was entirely different. It wasn't a destination, but a path. A 12-hour journey the dead had to make, facing demons and gods at every turn. It was a series of trials, a test of worthiness. The goal wasn't just to exist, but to pass through the Duat and reach the Field of Reeds, the Egyptian version of paradise. Now, it's crucial to understand this. Hades was not evil. He wasn't the Greek equivalent of the devil. He was a king, a warden. His job was to rule the dead and ensure they never left. He was just, stern, and respected the cosmic order. He punished the wicked, but he didn't tempt the living. Anubis, on the other hand, was a guide. His primary role was that of a psychopomp, a conductor of souls. He met the deceased at the threshold, protected them on their journey, and was the master of mummification, the sacred process that prepared the body for the afterlife. He was a comforting, albeit intimidating presence. Hades' power was absolute within his domain. His greatest symbol of power was the Helm of Darkness, a gift from the Cyclopes that allowed him to become invisible, moving unseen among gods and mortals. And no one could escape his realm, for its gates were guarded by the monstrous three-headed hound Cerberus. But Anubis oversaw the single most important moment in any Egyptian's existence, the weighing of the heart. In the Hall of Two Truths, Anubis would weigh the deceased's heart against the feather of the goddess of truth, Ma'at. If the heart was heavy with sin, it would be fed to the devourer, Amit, and the soul would cease to exist. If it was light, they earned eternal life. Hades himself rarely judged souls. That job fell to a committee of 3 demigods, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus. They were the ones who listened to the deeds of a soul's life and directed them to their rightful place. It was a legal proceeding, not a spiritual test of the heart. While Anubis was tied to his duties, Hades was known for one major act that shook the world above: his abduction of the goddess Persephone to be his queen. This act plunged the world into winter as Persephone's mother, the harvest goddess Demeter, grieved. It showed that Hades' desires could directly impact the world of the living. Anubis' power, however, was in his sacred knowledge. He was the patron god of embalmers. Without his divine process of mummification, the soul would have no vessel to return to, and the journey to the afterlife would be impossible. His power was technical, precise, and absolutely essential. But here's the crucial twist for Anubis. Over time, his role changed. As the myths evolved, the god Osiris, who was famously murdered and resurrected, became the supreme ruler of the Egyptian underworld. Anubis retained his vital job as the guide and weigher of hearts, but he was no longer the king. He became the most important minister, not the monarch. So let's bring it all together. Hades, an absolute monarch whose rule was never challenged. His power was raw, territorial, and final. He was a king. Anubis, a judge and guide whose role was essential for salvation. His power was in process and knowledge, but he was ultimately a subject of a higher king, Osiris. Hades ruled a destination. Anubis managed a journey. Their legacies reflect this difference. The Greeks feared Hades. They avoided saying his name, afraid to attract his attention. He was a terrifying, distant figure. The Egyptians, however, revered Anubis. They prayed to him, asking for his protection. He was a vital ally in their quest for immortality. One was feared as a jailer, the other respected as a guide. So what is their true legacy? Hades gave us the archetype of the ruler of the underworld, a concept that has echoed through literature and religion for centuries. But Anubis and the Egyptian system gave us something even more profound. The idea that our actions in this life are judged and that our eternal fate depends on the goodness of our heart. A moral test, not just a destination. So, who was the true lord of the underworld? While Anubis held the more intimate and hopeful role by the strict definition of an absolute, unchallenged ruler of the dead, the crown must go to Hades. His reign was eternal, and his word was law. But the question remains for you. At the end of your journey, who would you rather meet? The unyielding king or the impartial judge? Let me know your choice in the comments below. Thank you for joining me on this journey into myth and history. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss my next video.